Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lie.
Welcome to Let's Talk with Carl Nee. Join Carl alongside frequent co-hosts Lisa Odie and Hollis Lewis as they explore dynamic conversations with guests from all walks of life. Let's Talk is proudly brought to you by attorney Frank Walker. Real talk, real experience, real results. Visit frankwalkerlaw.com. The conversation starts now. This is Let's Talk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Let's Talk and my crew. I have Hollis Lewis and Lisa Odie.
Hello.
And once again, Lisa, our distinguished other co-host, Hollis Lewis, has some news that he's going to put out there, and we will have a discussion after he kind of gives us a little bit of an update on the transfer.
Okay, so basically what during the legislative session, we've had interims this week. Again, it got a little disrupted because of the weather. And during the interims, the Joint Education Committee, athletic directors and other interested parties, but particularly athletic directors, came in and they talked to lawmakers. Again, and I just want to clarify, during interim sessions, we're not actually passing laws or anything like that. We're actually sort of taking in information so that way once the session actually officially starts, we'll be able to move forward with bills and different things of that nature. But in essence, athletic directors from around the state, they came and talked to lawmakers about their issues with the transfer rule. Some of the athletic directors, they were for it. They liked the school choice, but I would say most of them took issue with it, just causing disruption. They named things like, far as irregular, and the thing that struck me the most is that they were particularly concerned about junior and seniors transferring.
Yes.
That's who they were concerned, because I think, number one, they talked about the disruption as far as the community base, which you've talked about as far as around the schools, and talking about, leaving those sophomores and freshmen behind, not being able to cultivate talent. And also they talked about the inequities as far as which we'll talk about here in a second, the scoring, those who are actually getting the kids are, they talked about the increased numbers of shortened games. And for those who don't know, in high school sports, once you're up by a certain amount in I think the second half, it's a continual clock,
right?
Until the score comes back down to a specific number. I think once you're up by 35, I think something like that.
I think it's, I think
want to
it
say
is
35.
30 or 35.
It's got to be around 35.
Yeah, I think it's 35.
Okay.
So basically, when you're up by 5 touchdowns, it's just a continual clock.
And that's crazy.
And just as far as the numbers, before you say that, the numbers went from 155 in 2003 from shortened games to 255 in 2024. So it's been a 100-game increase in 1 year, and we've also seen an increased number of transfers.
So, and everybody's clear that I hate this. I hate every part of it. And
such a strong word.
Yeah, and it is
the right word, though.
It is the right word.
It is the right word for me specifically, because what I don't understand, and I've said, to the safety issue, when that top player, those top players, those juniors and seniors leave, they force those sophomores and basically freshmen. Who are ninth graders, you start talking about ninth and 10th graders leading off against the team that's loaded with transfer kids. That's how you get those 70, you score 70 points against another team. The physicality of that is crazy to me. I mean, it makes no sense that you can sit. I don't care how long you sit in a room. I don't care how long and what you say and how you try to justify it. It is not okay. It's just not. For me, as a football player, looking at it and trying to say, okay, can I take a freshman, sophomore college kid, put him into a practice in the NFL, in physical contact, How's that going to work?
And just to put it in perspective, in 2023, statewide, there were approximately 432 transfers. That's across all fall sports. And in 2024, there were 433. So we're seeing annually, at least for the sample size, about 430 plus kids are transferring annually now for the last 2 years at least.
And the problem with that too, Hollis and Carl, I think part of it is when this whole transfer portal issue began, it was a one-time transfer deal. Am I correct?
Yes.
At the beginning.
Yes.
When it was first introduced, it was a one-time transfer, and it was before their 9th grade year, right? And then after that,
that was like I think that's the original.
The original,
that was the original
but
one.
that's the original one. Probably would not have had the ramifications,
and it didn't,
that it's grown into today. And I guess the changes that the legislature's made to the legislation over the years is just grown into this monster now that's really affected the whole landscape of high school football.
Hollis, and I have a question for you. To your point, okay, so let's say it's at point A, right? It's going to start at A. And it's kind of okay. People can dislike it. People like me can dislike it, but it's okay. It's a certain.
You can live with it.
So you can live with it. You're living with it, and then you wait two more years, 3 more years, 4 more years, and then all of a sudden it's completely out of control.
Well,
how does that happen?
It happens because of now you've implemented freedom of choice as far as schools. So when you have the Hope Scholarship, and now I can go to any school I want to. I don't have to go to school. I'm not bound by my district anymore. So and I'm saying if you're a regular student, you can go to any school that you want to based on this Hope Scholarship. I can go to public school, private school, charter school, anything I want. So by default, you cannot now tell me I can't play sports at the school now that I'm transferring to. So basically, when you implement the sort of the mindset and the strategy of saying freedom of choice as far as school is concerned, then by default, sports come with that.
That's true.
So I think you almost can't have one without the other. You can't allow me to say I can go to any school I want, but I can't play. I have to sit out a year and do all these extra things to play sports. So I think that, to me, it's sort of hard to walk it back as far as the transfers is concerned because I still have freedom of choice in school. And you cannot come back and say, well, because I think some people will say, well, okay, you can't transfer for athletic reasons. Well, you and I know some people athletically, as far as it's tied to school, is just as much as academic. That's what they're there to do. And then they'll, get their academics on the back end, or the academics will rise, as they go through school. So it's going to be hard in my mind to walk this back because of that.
So how do we fix this? I mean, the legitimately.
Is there a fix?
Well, is there a fix? I don't know, but I mean, what we're seeing in the fall for high school football is atrocious. I mean, we're seeing these kids. The games aren't competitive. What's happening is they all migrate to the high schools that have the best athletic programs, and then those schools keep thriving and they keep attracting those better athletes, and the rest of it almost mirrors what's going on at the college level. It really does.
And I would say, just my opinion, I would say you have to start with coaching. So number one, I don't know where this money's coming from because, again, that's what we all complain about. We fight at the legislature every day. I would say we have to pay our coaches more. And I almost think it should be like a separate position outside the school. I think it should be a salary position. And we need to demand from our coaches, like, hey, we're going to pay you a salary position to coach, just like they do in Texas, just like they do in Kentucky, South Carolina, all over the country. This is a salary position to coach. Now, again, you might have some other, responsibilities in the school, but your main job is to coach. This is what you're getting paid for. And I think that if we allow our coaches just to focus on coaching, then they could, rise their level, and kids will be attracted to come to this school because they're going to get excellent coaching. So I think that, to me, that's where it could be a fix at. Because, again, I don't know, unless you're going to say we're going to change all this legislation, we're going to stop Hope Scholarship and do all this stuff.
That's not happening.
We know that's probably not going to happen, at least not under these next couple administrations, right?
No.
So I think we got to allow our coaches to focus on coaching. So that way I can be a full-time coach no matter if I'm coaching at Cameron, if I'm at South Charleston, if I'm at Capitol, if I'm at Spring Mill. And I can dedicate my time to that.
So let's say in my situation going to South Charleston. I know, and I mean, I wasn't worried about the financial piece of it, but I'll say this: I cannot imagine someone who's not teaching, who's not doing something else
in the school,
either in the school or working somewhere else. You can't just coach.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying pay you enough just so you can coach.
So you're like part of this.
Not a supplement, a salary.
Not a supplement, a salary. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Because you put it, I mean, I don't know if people understand the hours that coaching demands.
You don't understand it unless you've coached.
I mean, literally, you're there. You're probably the first person there.
Yeah.
In the morning. And you're probably likely going to be the last person, or you and a couple coaches are going to be the last people leaving well past 9 o'clock.
And that's the thing. Like, you can have actually an excellent coach who's filled with knowledge, who knows what they're doing. But because it's a supplement, they have family obligations. They have their other career obligations. They don't have the time to be invested to the point that they should be. Right. Because, and again, you may have, and that may be different for different schools who, operate a little differently.
Right.
But I say make it a salaried position where you are paid to coach. So that way you can invest all your time and you can do everything you need to do in order to raise the level of your program.
And how do you see that working? I mean, your vision of that, would it be like a teacher salary, or because even that, I think, being a teacher, that's hard to make it on. We know that. But I mean, that's right. A start. It's better than a supplement, but still, I don't know if I think it will help.
But then
I think it can help. Yeah.
And to your point, so let's say that happens. I've got to have 5-6 coaches who are going to be there and going to be as active as I'm going to be. What do we pay them? And again, I'm not trying to make it but just trying to make people see the expense, how expensive the coaching aspect of it is. And if you're not getting that, I just don't know how.
I mean, again, in the solution that I'm offering, I would even submit to you that it's probably not the best solution. I just don't know if there's another solution if we're going to say you have freedom of choice as far as any school. You have the whole scholarship. You can do anything you want as far as your personal education. So we're saying so if it's going to be hard to restrict transferring based off that, then I think the answer is, hey, we're going to pay coaches a comparable salary. We're going to give maybe some increases far as supplements to a few assistants
coaches.
So maybe you have, a head coach getting this, an assistant getting that, and then we're going to supplement a couple more assistants. So that way, at the very least, these coaches could be dedicate 100% of their time to that sport. Because what we know is that, sports are just as important as academics to some kids. And this is some kids' pathway, not to NFL, but to college, or not even to college, maybe just to make it through high school.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we know that. So if any listener could offer any other, solution, please I'm all ears. Because I just don't know of any. That's the only thing I could really think of, to be honest with you.
And Lisa, I think about myself, and I was just ate up with football. I love sports, but football was the thing that I was trying to get.
That was your goal.
That was my goal.
Mm-hmm. End goal.
And I'm trying to figure out, like, today, how does a coach coach me? How do we manage this situation here of either you're having a problem with transfers, let's say I'm pretty good, I get pretty good. How does that coach now coach me to keep me? How does he, what is he supposed to do? And if somebody's saying, oh man, he's getting really good, and I'm thinking in my mind, I might go, I may go to GW because Hollis is up there and they won a championship and we haven't won one. I might want to go there. If you're the coach, what's the things that you say to them to hold them?
I think it's just a fine line these coaches have to walk. I mean, it used to be that, the kids didn't have the option of being able to leave when they wanted to, basically. And the coach had more leeway, I guess.
Power.
Power.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah,
Power.
more power.
In the way that they discipline students or their student athletes, in the way they practiced with those kids, how they treated them in general. And now these kids know what their options are, and they know if they don't like the way things are going at the school or the way the coach spoke to them today at practice, or just maybe the way the path that the school's following as far as championships. They know these things. There's social media. They see everything.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, all of the outlets that they have and the information access they have, way more than we had.
Here's the thing. As a coach now, your job has changed. If you're a head coach, I would say, and I'm saying as a modern head coach, I don't know if your job is football now. And I would say that if you want to attract students, you want to keep those athletes, number one, you got to recruit your own locker room. And number two, you got to give them something. So, for example, if you take like a Martinsburg coach, well, if you're going to Martinsburg, it's a good chance that you're going to win a state championship.
So
right?
you can recruit.
Right.
You can basically
recruit me
off
on that
because of that.
Then you have other coaches who, they're traveling the country. You take what Donnie Mays did at Hurricane. He went to Detroit and played a game. Right? So now there's sort of that national exposure. I can go to Detroit. I can go to Ohio. I think they're going to play. They're going to open up in Ohio or Kentucky next year, right? So now it's like, and I'm talking about Hurricane here locally. Mm-hmm. So now I'm playing these regional and sort of national games, so I can get national exposure that way. You have other coaches who are, every year they're pitting kids in college. So you got to have something. You got to almost have a stick. I'm not saying a gimmick per se, but you got to have something that you do really, really well.
So you're not getting me unless you have something.
You got to do something that I care about. So that's either that's going to be giving me national exposure through playing these national games, or doing the 707 thing, or I'm going to win a championship, or this is a hotbed. I'm going to recruit. You have all these relationships. That's part of what you're working on. So it's got, or for example, GW, you're going to get the balance of being in a good athletic program and an excellent academic program. So you have to have something as a coach that you can say, hey, this is what we do well, and if you care about this, this is the place for you. So I think your days of just going out there and trying to kick butt and cussing people out and coach and just being on football, them days are gone. You got to have something that you do really, really well that's going to attract students. And some programs, hey, you just might have the flyest and best gear. We a Nike school. We got all the fresh new everything. So it's got to be something. This is bigger than football now. Is your job as a football coach. And I'm saying that's at the high school level, college level, and even,
But do you think these high school coaches realize that the
100%.
landscape has changed that much?
100%. I think a guy
so
like
too.
Donnie Mays realizes a lot of his kids go to college, and he's doing the thing where he's basically trying to travel the region playing other teams. So I think they do it.
And I think to your point, the folks who are out of touch are people like me, who
the old people,
like the old folks that are coaching, who are just like we just don't, we can't. It happened too fast. It didn't. I wasn't part of that transition. I walked into that kind of a transition, and I'm like looking at this and thinking to myself, like, no, I'm not going to recruit you. I had a couple of folks who were friends of mine. Was like, hey, we're willing to. I said, look, if you want to come. I'm not.
And that don't work no more.
I know.
No.
I'm not coming to you. I'm not offering you nothing. I'm not saying. I'm not going to suggest to you to bring your son from Hollis's team just because I want to be the better team. That don't work for me. That just does not work for me. And
I mean, but you got that.
I know
that's the way to get players.
That is the way it works.
Even if you look at like St. Albans with Coach Stotts, like you should have seen what he did with their locker room, their field house.
Right.
This is high school. They got the little drink stations. They got pool. They got PlayStation in there. It looks beautiful in there, right? And that's just something that you gotta have to to get kids coming.
And to your point, Hollis, and to yours, Carl, that probably what the smaller schools that are not on the levels of the Martinsburgs and the GWs, maybe what they could bring to the table and offer is, hey, playing time.
Oh, absolutely.
You're on the second string in Martinsburg. You come down here, you're going to start for us.
That's 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So I mean, they've got to figure out ways.
Yep.
They may not have the lucrative resources financially to be able to attract these kids, but they can attract them with playing time.
And I'll say that too. To your point, Lisa, that's another thing. As a head coach, you can't spend all your time out there on the football field thinking you just coaching. You got to go talk to your community. You got to go talk to the big time lawyer, the car dealer, your friends, the alumni, and you got to get that money up too. That's a part of this deal too.
It just amazes me that we just got here, especially in high school. We got here so fast.
I don't know though. I think we got here slow, West Virginia.
Well,
I think stuff like this been going on.
I'm not comparing us to. I'm not comparing us to other states. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking. It seemed like it started, and we already blew up. Like it happened quicker than I think coaches got money. I think it happened quicker before all the benefits are available to you. Like you're talking to me about something, man, and I don't know yet that I can promise you that. You know,
and
I know
you're gonna be here with me.
I know I'm too late.
But do you also think, guys, that this might deter a lot of promising coaches to not go into high school coaching? Just because of all the things that are being required of it now without compensation. I mean, I really think what you said makes the most sense, is to find a way to salary these coaches, because what they're doing on a supplement is not going to attract, I mean, unless they're just really, 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 in love with being a coach at the high school level. And the supplement part it's not going to cut it.
I would to answer your question, and I was a high school, middle school, and youth level coach for about 8 years, and there's no way at this point in my life I would step back into any coaching that I'm not looking at trying to make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. If I'm going to spend my time as a high school football coach, number one, I want to be the head coach. I'm trying to rise to that level, right? So I want to rise to the level to be a head coach. And if I'm going to spend all that time, because basically to what we just talked about, pretty much you're a small collegiate coach as far as time is concerned, right? And the things that you're now having to do. So if I'm going to do that, then I'm trying to get to Alabama. I'm trying to get to Florida State. I'm Marshall, WVU. I'm trying to get supplemented handsomely for what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're somewhat just like the parents and the kids are. They're looking 100%. For their best situation, and you're looking for your best.
No, not necessarily. But what I'm saying is, like, I'm not going to spend all that time doing that to have. And to deal with all the things that come with it, and then I'm looking up and I'm not being supplemented in a way that's, I think,
you deserve
equitable. You know what I mean? So if I'm going to do this, then I need to go to the collegiate route where at least I can get paid.
Right. Because it's not like it used to be. It used to be a supplement was fine because basically the coach went out there, he conducted practices, he took the team to games, went to a pep assembly. I mean, it wasn't like the things that it is involved now.
Or at the least, you knew you had your guys.
Right.
You knew that.
You didn't have
at
to
the very least.
No.
I knew that if I'm going to South Charleston Middle, Dunbar Middle, I know these are the kids that I'm getting. I'm probably going to have a couple move in, a couple move out, but I know what I got. But now, shoot, it's a
battle.
It's a battle.
I went to the middle schools a couple of times to, which I was advised to, because I would not have probably done it. But I was advised. I'm to the point. When I say I wasn't thinking about necessarily doing it, I wasn't even really sure where we were.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. And so my first concern would have been giving them something to see, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But but I go to the middle school, and when I look, like I'm looking and I'm talking to the kids, like I don't see nobody that's really like locked in, focused in, want to hear what I gotta say. But then when I get back, it's the same thing.
Right.
You know, when I come back to the school, high school, I'm looking for that. I'm looking for you who's listening to me, who's waiting on just something to motivate you a step more, get more desire, just anything possible. And I'm not speaking about any kids, and I'm not talking about the group of kids. I'm just saying, but for me as the coach, trying to get into South Charleston and trying to get kids to stay focused or get focused, get prepared, try to go out and actually play and win some games. Man, it was a challenge of even trying to find who was really interested in actually getting out on the field and really going after it. I mean, there were some, but again, it wasn't their time yet. That's the problem. The kids who were supposed to be playing were the kids that were gone. And all of a sudden now I've got a kid who's
not developed,
who's not ready yet, doesn't even know what he's supposed to be thinking or how he's supposed to be acting, what role he can play. Can he be the leader? You know, all of a sudden you've been following, you know, a senior, a junior, a senior, and now they're gone, and now it's you. What do you do? And how do you even
I mean, the maturity levels between a freshman and a senior is night and day.
Unbelievable.
Night and day.
Unbelievable.
But I think too, like, again, and I could take myself, like when I was a sophomore, freshman, man, I'm one on the field, and like during my era, like we weren't on the field. Like it don't matter, sophomore, kick that out the window.
Right.
Put me in the game, coach. And I just think now, like I said, it's a different time now. It's a different.
But see, I
motivations are different. Right?
I think those kids think the same thing that we thought back then. Like, I can play. Let me in. I want to go. But the problem with that is some of them have no idea yet of what it really is.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think that's always just, you know, if you're new to something, then that's always going to be kind of the thing that you have to battle with, even within yourself or as a coach. But I think now, again, I just think the motivations are different. I don't think, like I said, it's hard to just come in there with the rah-rah speech. It's hard to, when there's nothing else being, you know, offered, when there's nothing else being promised, when there's nothing else being done outside of football. It's like you got to do a lot of football plus stuff. You know
are there, do you think there's as many solidified, believable work ethics that are being put forth to want to go play college ball?
100%.
Do you think so?
100%.
Okay.
If you've seen like all the collegiate athletes that are in coming out of West Virginia, these kids are going D1, whether it's WVU type D1, big Power 4 now, or they're going to the smaller levels. So it's a lot of kids coming out here playing college football. Again, to Lisa's point, what's happening now is that the talent is going to one place now. Talents are getting consolidated because they're, you know, it's going to, you know, maybe one school, or you may have 5 or 6 or 10 college players at one school.
I think we are having more players, which we've never had a ton. We've got more players now that are getting to that D1 level, and having an opportunity and getting opportunities to actually get there and play than we've probably ever had.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. But I'm not sure if those kids are just they're just gifted in size, speed, determination.
Kids work hard now. That's one thing I will say. If you look at, like, because kids are doing like a lot of the summer stuff, they're going to private trainers. It's just a different type of work. It's not work that's being facilitated 100% by the football program. Right? So a lot of that work is coming from private trainers. They're going to plan for different 7-on-7 or AAU teams. So they're getting this work at a lot of different places. It's not like it was back in the day where you as a coach are seeing everything because you're facilitating all of it. And I think that's a bit of a problem. Well, not a problem, but just a different take.
Yeah, it's a different take. And to also say this, I mean, you think about some of your key skill players that are going to these bigger schools that have they're laden with juniors and seniors. You've got a better offensive line. You've got a better defensive line. You're going to be able to perform better just because you've got better people around you. So your skill set's going to be able to shine.
All right. So are we? Is there a problem? Is there a problem for me as the kid that needs to develop? Because those kids leave, and now you leave me with a team that's
possibly
that could be a problem, because again, it's not like it's like the iron sharpen iron. Like when I remember when Zaki Lawton and Xavier Bosley, both Division I football players, when they were both at South Charleston, they would Zaki Lawton was a defensive lineman.
Yep.
Zaki Lawton was a defensive lineman, and Xavier Bosley was an offensive lineman.
Yep.
And they would go head up head in practice every day.
Right.
And it made both of them better.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it paid
so,
off.
again, that could be a problem, because if you just had one of them there and they're going against way lesser talent, and once they get in the game, that could be problematic, because it's not like the iron sharpen iron.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Let's face it, bad things happen to good people. Seriously injured in a car accident, trucking accident, or even wrongfully arrested. Life happens, and when it happens to you, you will need sound legal advice and aggressive representation. That's when you call attorney Frank Walker at 304-413-0179. That's 304-413-0179. Lock it in your phone, text it to a friend. 304-413-0179. Or visit online at attorneyfrankwalker.com.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is proudly presented by attorney Frank Walker. Visit frankwalkerlaw.com. Share your thoughts, ask questions, or suggest topics on our Facebook page. Just search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee. And don't forget to like the page to join the conversation. Catch past episodes anytime at WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. And tune in Thursday nights at 7 or Sunday evenings at 8 for Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Now, back to the conversation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with, I guess, the fighting, the fighting of
For now.
Football and the transfer, and I think now we're going to go to basketball.
Yeah,
and the reality of NBA and I've been I don't know why I keep hearing this, but obviously because it's true. Mm-hmm. The decline in basketball, the NBA viewership, has dropped drastically.
It's a 48% drop from 2012 to now in viewership in the NBA specifically.
Wow.
And you hear people talk about. I don't know if let me rephrase that. I hear people talk about basketball players. I don't know if I hear them talk about basketball as a whole, as like a team per se.
Yeah.
Has basketball lost its identity to individual players? That you only watch those players?
That's actually a good question. I think basketball it's kind of always been like that to a certain degree, but you had those sort of team makeups where, you would talk about like a Michael Jordan, but you're talking about the totality of the Bulls. In my mind, I think what I would contribute to the decline is just the style of play. I think it's become too much reliant on the three-point shot. And while I like positionless basketball, I don't like it. Because, I don't want to see Wemby, at the three-point line all the time. I don't want to see a guy like Kevin Durant. He's a great skilled basketball player. But, man, get in the post. Where's the guys that
nobody's poking?
Yeah, playing the back to the basket and give me them, Akeem Olajuwon or Shaq moves, where we can have those sort of different identities on the court, So I think to me, and the last one I make is I think they've adopted a Euro style of basketball, and it's not it lacks oomph, it lacks aggression to me. It's too finesse. So NBA games are just. Unless it's the playoffs, it's terrible to watch in my eyes.
And that's exactly, I'm going to add to his point because, I used to love the NBA. Whenever Michael Jordan, I'm dating myself and it's okay. But, when Michael Jordan, you had the Chicago Bulls, that era of basketball, that was exciting to watch. Yeah. They had that whole team. You knew all, Pippen and all the players. I used to love it. And then, like you just said, it's gotten monotonous. There's no emotion. It's like they're going through the motions of making 3-pointers and then they just go back and forth and you just don't see, like you said, the oomph. I don't know. The attraction to me is not there anymore.
does that make? Are we making the case that the true identity of the big man down low is what we're losing? Is what we've lost?
And look, I would say that, but I also would say the little man, right? Because now, remember back in the day, like an Allen Iverson, right? Mm-hmm. What made him so phenomenal and special? Number one, he's a tremendous athlete. He was quick. He would take you off the dribble. Then what? He's not necessarily just going to always settle for the three. He's going right to the rack.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So having the little man,
and throwing it off,
and throwing it off. So having the Isaiah Thomases, the Allen Iversons, the Stevie Franchises, the Stephon Marburys, having those guys who were phenomenal athletes, maybe a bit undersized, but had the quickness and the savvy to take you off the dribble, to shoot it around you, shoot it over you, go over you, the fancy dribbling moves. It made it so exciting because you got like a sort of a dichotomy of big and little, fast and slow, sort of, quick and strong. So you got all those flavors within basketball. Now everybody is like a white wall. They're just the same. They're the same color wall. Everybody's just the same.
Do you blame Magic for that? Because he's that 6'6" point guard, one of the early guys to be able to do that. 6'9", and being able to handle the ball, bringing it up the court. So all of a sudden, all those guys.
We will not speak ill of Magic Johnson.
No, I'm not.
Blasphemy.
No, I think he's great. I'm just saying. So now everybody wanted to be him. So even the big guy.
But let me ask you this, though.
He's like, I don't want to go down there like where Kareem is at.
Magic did that. So during his rookie year, the championship that he won the rookie year, Akeem was hurt.
Yes.
So what did they do? Magic get your butt in the post, and he's shooting hook shots. He's in the post, and I think the second one, Magic, he played with flair. Right, so he's coming down the court. He's behind the back. No look, all this. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Now they don't have that sort of flair and that sort of joy playing the game. It's like I said, it seems like people just going through the motion.
Yeah, and can I throw this out there? I'm not really sure if this could play a factor in it or not, but the reason that maybe the viewing, the numbers have dropped is because there's a variety of other sports that are available to watch that are more exciting at that time. I mean, now that you've got the college football championships going on till January 20th now, that's got to take some viewers away.
Yeah.
You've got college basketball starts early, and so that's a competition for them. So it's not only the product that they're putting out there on the court, but it's the other products that are available that are probably more attractive to viewers.
But
I don't know. I agree with that, but
yeah, because I'm going to make the case. You look at Caitlin Clark. Like she took some college viewership to the WNBA. So,
but I think the style of play for the WNBA, if you've been watching basketball for a long time, it's better.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? So. Because again, they're
more exciting.
Yeah, they're playing position basketball. You're gonna have a big, you're gonna have a small, you're gonna have dump it in the post. You're gonna have somebody playing with their back to the basket. I mean, outside, if they could, dunk readily, I think it would just surpass the NBA game, or it had the capacity to. I just think, like I said, it's just. I would agree that there's a lot more viewing options, so I think that could contribute to some of the decline. But when you're talking about a 50% dip, that's I would be alarmed by that, and I think they are.
I think they are
because we're doing like
a lot of revenue.
They're doing like the play-in tournaments and different things of that nature to try to make it more exciting. So I just think, again, to me, I don't think it's a matter of anything other. To me, it's just the style of play. When watching Michael Jordan, I would watch Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or Shaq. I'm watching them all season. I'm not just waiting to the playoffs. I'm watching Allen Iverson all season.
And you could see them doing different things. They weren't just shooting. They were passing. They were playing defense. They were doing all of that. And now I don't see that hunger. I see a great skill set. I mean, everybody can shoot threes.
Yeah.
But if I'm Kareem, I don't have to worry about shooting a three. I'm not ever going to be out that far. If I'm out that far, I'm on my way to the bench.
That's what I'm saying. Think of Kareem now. If Kareem was playing now, he'd be in the 3-point line.
Yes, he was
shooting threes.
Right.
I mean, it's fun to watch for a while, but it's like, dang.
Well, you almost
see a hook shot.
And let's face it, don't you think the season is a bit lengthy?
I would have totally
yes.
agreed.
I mean, I think it's just. I think after a while, unless you're a a hometown fan of some of these teams, it's the same stuff over and over. And there's so many games, and they start in November and they end in June. I mean, that's a long season. What is it? They start in October.
I think they start in October. Some regular season games. I would totally agree with that. I say start at Christmas.
Yes.
And end in May.
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm totally against the crossover of sports. Like, football should have its season. Basketball have its season. You know, just to allow folks an opportunity to actually watch what they want. Because you got everything. Like, there's a period of time where, like, everything is on television. Like, you got basketball, you got baseball, you got football. No, I don't want that.
October's like that. You got all three sports.
I don't want that.
It's a nightmare if you have ADHD or ADD like me. It's like, whoa, I don't know what to do.
You know, and I really don't think, you know, and again, when you start talking about, how many games did you say basketball?
How many months?
82 games.
I don't know how many games.
82.
That's a lot.
I mean, really?
We know it's money, but now that the decline is coming, you know, with the decline of viewership, you've also got a decline in the, you know, the financial part of it. So maybe they'll consider that. I don't know.
Oh, I seriously doubt. The last thing I think they would do, I think the last thing,
increase it.
Yeah, the last thing they would do is I would think they would decrease the number of games.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk about that, I mean, I think that's even true for like the NFL. We don't need more games per se.
No.
But I would be for like 60 games. I think that would make it way more competitive. I think shortening that season would be, again, they're not going to do it. I mean, I seen one. I forgot. I was looking on social media or something. I won't name the team, but they were just giving away the tickets. I mean, tickets $5 for decent, basketball tickets. Because again, when you're talking about these games in October, November, December, January, February, it's just like watching paint dry. It's not very good.
Well, and you don't, and it doesn't even matter at that point. It doesn't even matter. It's not it. You don't even know who's going to really truly be in the playoffs until literally it's like a month or so out, and then people get locked in. I'm not trying to. I can't give you that every night. I just can't. I just
got to be
can't
like a super fan.
And then you add college, and God forbid if you watch if you're in a community, you go to see your high school, you ain't got a chance to.
That's a lot of basketball.
That's a lot of basketball, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot of basketball.
And I would say like college basketball is, it's generally always pretty good just because they're on a tighter time crunch. But even that's kind of lost its muster just because of the fluidity of the transfer situation. You don't have those guys like the Pittsnoggles, right? Who are staying,
you got to know their names.
You got to know their names and their personalities and kind of how they play. So now I think what sports have done with transfer almost – it forces you to be like an insider, right? Where you got to like read all the news. You got to be an ESPN subscriber to the insider to figure out what's going on. And I just don't have that type of time and energy to like pit into all that.
I don't know if most
that could be part of the problem.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think most people do, and I do think that is part of that drop because
it's just a lot.
I mean, you got so many games. So what if I miss this game? So what if I miss that game? We got months to go,
Right.
And I mean, really, in football, you're thinking, okay, you got 16 weeks. You can miss a couple. You may miss a couple games, but if it's your team and you love them, you trying to get to as many of those games because you only got a few TV games.
And one of the things that again, this isn't coming from me. But a lot of like the former NBA players, one of their complaints, again, they're insiders, they're more closer to the game. But one of the things they said is just like it seems to be like a lack of caring about the games from the current players. They gave one example where, Paul George, I think they said he had just a horrible game. They lost big. And he's on the next night, he's like doing his podcast. You know what I mean? And they're just talking about just like far as the love, the intensity, the passion, as you mentioned, Lisa, about the game is sort of like, and that's coming from their perspective. So I think when you look at like a decline, it's, it's a bunch of different
and
reasons
I think,
why.
And I think you have to be careful when you start talking about, quote, getting into the media while you're doing something. Like while you're playing the game.
I don't. Yeah.
Because that's not really a good look. You
It
know,
could get you in big trouble.
big trouble.
Yeah.
Because are you worried about the game? Or are you worried about
But
the show?
again, everybody's doing that now. Everybody all these
does
players
podcasts.
has these podcasts. They have their radio shows. Some are on TV. It's just like, again, it's almost like basketball now is like the sort of the stepping stone to get to somewhere else, as opposed to back in the day it was the ultimate goal now. So I think, again, I just think particularly with basketball players, because they make a lot more money, they're a lot more visible, so their opportunities to do things in the media and or otherwise is greater probably than any other sport, right?
What basketball? What's the best for you, Hollis? If you said you had to watch a basketball game, not teams, but just you were going to watch a basketball game, at what level would you want to watch it? From college all the way down, let's say, to high school.
I'll probably, if I had to, that's kind of, of course you always want to watch the NBA, right? But all things being equal, like if I'm just looking at passion, intensity, drive, high school would be, for me, bar none. Like an elite high school, like those two elite high schools going, like if you had like the Oak Hills and the Huntington Preps going against the IG Academy. Yeah, I want to see one of those.
That's why I wanted to include
guys.
Like the high school. Lisa, what do you think?
I like college.
You like college?
Yeah, especially like March Madness. That's my favorite time of year.
Yeah,
So that's fun.
And see, it was easy. It would be easy for me. It would be high school, just simply because I like the idea of those kids out there actually trying to work to get to something, to make themselves into something. Yeah. And which is now crazy because you start talking about high school, that's probably the least moneymaker, money-making sport than college and the pros.
Yeah,
and the
I like
names
March
are
Madness
different.
too. I would say definitely that's just a close, because
I think a lot of people
that's a fun just time. It's not like football where you're just sitting out March Madness. Them guys ain't sitting out there playing. You know what I mean?
And then there's a lot of upsets. Like you always have those Cinderella teams. That's fun to watch those kids when they beat an elite team.
Not to jump off track, but I heard this. I think this is correct. That KC, the Chiefs, they sit all their players down.
See, that's a problem.
Yeah, they did. And what happened was, because they lost, then the Bengals, who were on a 5-game winning streak, they missed the playoffs. So I think if Kansas City would have won, then it would have propelled the Bengals into the playoffs. So
maybe that was why that conversation came up.
And how disappointing for, let's say, a Kansas City Chief fan lives in that area for the Denver game, and they go to that game to see the Chiefs play, and every single starter is out. Like, wouldn't that be?
But if you're a fan, though, right? You don't want to see your guys get hurt. We're making the playoffs.
I had this conversation.
I
had this conversation earlier, and I said the scenario was, okay, so you got your daughter, and she's a diehard Mahomes fan, right? And you're driving to Kansas City to go see a game. You're driving there, and you're gonna drive back just so she can see him play. Ain't nobody said nothing that he ain't playing.
No.
And then all of a sudden you show up, you got front row seats, she's excited, they're all out on the field warming up. Then they come out for the first play on offense, and the whole starting offense is on the sideline.
Again,
I get it. I'm just saying, what do you say to your daughter?
You spent the money. You spent a lot of money to learn a hard lesson.
But you got to be an ESPN insider and an analyst. And if you know that, you're going to know that
Better
prior.
get your subscription fast,
Yeah,
right?
because that's what sports are now. You got to read everything. You got to do everything. You got to make a conscious decision. You just can't do spur of the moment stuff like that no more. So that don't work now.
Well, do you think?
But all in all serious, that sucks for fans. But
it really does.
But if I'm a fan though,
you're gonna stay with it.
I'm almost taking the view as a player. We're moving on to next week. We got bigger fish to fry. It's kind of our conversation.
I never liked that approach, though. Even regardless of the fans, I think it's when you set out the starters, it may backfire. I mean, we've seen. Look what happened with the collegiate championships. Those guys, the 4 teams that got a bye, they all lost.
True.
So sometimes it's not always the best thing.
I can remember a couple different times when we were toward the end and we knew we were going into the playoffs. You played like a half or something, but you weren't not going to play at all. You know, they weren't going to like put the whole second team in. That was not going.
Is that what happened? The whole they never.
Yeah, Mahomes
not
didn't
one,
play.
No,
not
he didn't
one
play.
play.
Mahomes. I don't think.
I knew it was a blowout.
Henning,
and I
or
was
forget
like,
the guy, or Carson Wentz. I think that's his name.
Yeah.
He started the whole game.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No wonder it was a
backup
blowout.
quarterback. If I got that wrong.
Yeah.
But
Well, but basically, nobody else. Nobody else played. I don't think. I mean, and again, you can't. I mean, you got to do what you think is best for your team. You know,
Like
but
I said,
But let me ask this question:
You never know.
Do you lose something, or is that just like? Do you just call that a bye week?
I think though a team like that who's been in the championship for the last 4 or 5
Probably
years
wouldn't matter much.
It don't matter to them. But I think maybe a new team, like if you're emerging to that level, you probably go ahead and play at least a half or something like that because you don't want to lose the momentum. But for like a Kansas City, they've been there, done that. They'll be fine.
But have they ever done this before?
I think that. I mean,
I've not. I don't remember.
I don't know if they like set guys out totally, but towards the end of the season, I'm sure they played like a half or something like that.
And hasn't Mahomes been questionable, like
Yep.
with his leg anyway,
lot
or
of them.
ankle or something
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that?
they've been
all
pretty
season?
beat up as
Yeah.
a team.
Some issues, yeah.
They played a lot of ball games the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm not mad at him, but again, from a fan perspective, it ain't great.
See, I think, and
It's
again,
not.
you got to do what you got to do to win, but on the other side of it, you know, the fans themselves, they don't have to be happy.
They're the losers.
Yeah, they're going to lose out
They're
in
the
that.
ones that lose.
You know,
And we also got the NFL playoffs. We got the collegiate playoffs coming up too.
Oh yes, so that's the next exciting thing besides the weather we've had the past week or so. But anyway, I thought I would lead off with this because this is a famous Bear Bryant quote that I came across: that offense sells tickets, but defense wins championships. I thought you might appreciate
I have heard that.
Carl.
I've heard that a lot.
Because when you look at the Final Four, this is the Final Four of the college football world.
And who are they?
It is Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame.
Okay.
Actually, Penn State, Notre Dame play tomorrow evening at 7:30, and then on Friday you have the Texas-Ohio State matchup. But what was interesting that I came across was that all those teams were ranked among the top 8 defenses nationally all season, which is unusual because we've talked about this. Don't we feel like it's more the college play is more based on an offensive approach?
It has been the last couple years for sure.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, so we're looking at the Buckeyes have the top total defense and scoring defense in college sports.
So what matchup are you most excited to look at?
I don't know. I mean, I really think.
Say him again.
Okay, you got tomorrow evening's Notre Dame and Penn State, and so that's I think Penn State they shut down. I think Boise State, and then that's the Orange Bowl because you know how they've tied the big bowls into
That's
these.
in Florida.
Yes, and then the Buckeyes in Texas play on Friday, and that's
where's
the
that
Cotton Bowl.
That's
Cotton
in
Bowl,
Texas. So weather won't be. See, I'm interested in that one because again, weather won't be a factor necessarily. I think it's going to be a little cooler in Texas, but Texas almost has home field advantage in that a little bit.
They do.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
They do.
You can make
That's
that case.
going to be interesting. And like I said, I like how Ohio, they bounced back from the Michigan loss earlier, which is always their Super Bowl every year, that game at least. So I'm most interested in that matchup.
Which one?
Texas and Ohio.
Yeah, and Ohio State's been dominating.
Ohio
They've been
State,
dominating
Penn
throughout
State?
the playoffs.
No, Ohio and Texas.
Take notes.
Okay.
Penn
I want to
my
make sure
notes, Carl?
I just want to make sure I got it right.
State, Notre
It's like
Dame
the
are
old
playing.
days. Yeah.
And Ohio and Texas don't generally. That's not two schools that play a lot of games between
Right.
one another. Penn State, Notre Dame, they played some games.
Yes.
In the
Who do you think? Who do you think is going to win that one?
Penn State, Notre Dame. I like. It's going to be tough. But I like Notre Dame. I like the road that they're on. So I think they'll take that one.
Yeah. If we're looking at the NIL money, we're definitely going with Notre Dame, aren't we? Yeah.
I would
I
looking
had
at
to
it
throw
from
that out there, right? I
You
had to
stole
bring it
that
up.
from me. I was going to say that. I mean, you got to go with them.
Who got the?
I do think Notre Dame.
Maybe that's where
probably
you can
will
base wins and losses now.
win. Basically.
You make your bets.
Yeah, if I was going to make a bet, I'm going on the NIL money.
Who got the most?
Yeah,
NIL?
who's got the most?
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get out of here. Anything, Hollis? Anything, Lisa?
No, I'm
Y'all got
good.
anything? We're
I'm good. Great
All right.
show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week.
Let's Talk with Carl Lee is proudly presented by attorney Frank Walker. Visit frankwalkerlaw.com. Share your thoughts, ask questions, or suggest topics on our Facebook page. Just search for Let's Talk with Carl Lee. And don't forget to like the page to join the conversation. Catch past episodes anytime at WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk. And tune in Thursday nights at 7 or Sunday evenings at 8 for Let's Talk with Carl Lee.
If you fall, dust it off and get back up on your feet. Anything could be a win, yup, even defeat. They say sugar bad for you, wise victory sweet. Couldn't play with big kids, I had to sit in the street and watch from a distance, but over time I grew. If I put in the work, in no time I'm due. Everything that I worked and prayed, I'm okay. If you ask me, how did I do it, I'm gon' say, you gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work. 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 You gotta work.